what is up, Patriots, and happy hump day. T-minus 15 days till Christmas, so if you haven't started your shopping yet, what are you waiting for? And this message is specifically trying to wake up the husbands and boyfriends out there. Go get that gift now before you run out of time. This is just a friendly reminder. Well, this is O'Connor's Quick Strike, and I'm John O'Connor. 3 stories the mainstream media won't cover or will completely twist beyond recognition, delivered in roughly 15 minutes or so. And this one's likely going to run a little long. No fluff, no BS, no filler. Just the unvarnished truth peppered with my own take on what's really going on. We do this every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Today is Wednesday, December 10th. And we're starting with the Supreme Court hearing arguments on Monday that could give Trump the power to fire the heads of dozens of independent federal agencies. And the conservative majority is signaling they are ready to overturn 90 years of precedent. Then we are diving into the Senate Republicans unveiling their alternative to Obamacare subsidies. And instead of giving billions to insurance companies, they want to put that money directly into your health savings account. And we are closing with Jasmine Crockett, who treats her staff like garbage, mocks disabled people, and took $1 million from Sam Bankman-Fried. Yeah, she's filing to run for Senate in Texas, of all places. Let's get into it.
3.
All right, Patriots. Monday was a big day at the Supreme Court, and most Americans have no idea what just happened. This case is going to change everything about how the federal government operates. Here's the situation. Back in March, Trump fired Rebecca Kelly Slaughter from the Federal Trade Commission. Now, under federal law, you can't just fire FTC commissioners whenever you feel like it. You need cause, like misconduct, neglect of duty, malfeasance. Trump didn't cite any of that. He just said her continued service on the FTC is inconsistent with my administration's priorities. And boom, she was out. Slaughter then sued, arguing Trump violated the law. And her case relies on a 1935 Supreme Court precedent called Humphrey's Executor versus the United States. That case said the president can't fire commissioners from independent agencies without cause. The whole point was to keep agencies like the FTC insulated from political pressure, so they could regulate fairly without the president breathing down their necks. But here's the thing. The Supreme Court's 6-justice conservative majority just spent Monday signaling they are ready to overturn that 90-year-old precedent. Justice Brett Kavanaugh really laid it out. He said these independent agency commissioners wield massive power over individual liberty and billion-dollar industries, but they are not elected by anyone. So his question was pretty straightforward. Why should unelected bureaucrats have that kind of power without being accountable to the president, who is elected? And you know what? That's a damn good question. Trump's Solicitor General told the court, the sky will not fall. The entire government will move toward accountability to the people. Basically saying, if these commissioners are exercising executive power, they should answer to the chief executive. That's how the Constitution is supposed to work. Now, the 3 liberal justices were not happy about this. Justice Sonia Sotomayor went hard at the Solicitor General. She said, "You're asking us to destroy the structure of government and to take away from Congress its ability to protect its idea that the government is better structured with some agencies that are independent." And look, I get where she's coming from. For 90 years, we've had this system where certain agencies, the FTC, the SEC, the Federal Reserve, the National Labor Relations Board, have had commissioners who can't be fired without cause. Congress set it up that way deliberately. The concern is that if the president can fire these people at will, these agencies just become arms of the White House instead of independent regulators. But I have a counter-argument, and this is where I think the conservatives have a point. Who gave these agencies all this power in the first place? Congress. And when Congress delegates massive regulatory authority to unelected commissioners who can't be fired, You are creating what Justice Neil Gorsuch called a fourth branch of government, one that's not accountable to anyone. Now, Justice Kavanaugh did bring up one concern: the Federal Reserve. He said he shares concerns about protecting the Fed's independence, because if the president can just fire Federal Reserve governors whenever he wants, that could wreak havoc on monetary policy. The Solicitor General tried to reassure him that the administration isn't going after the Fed, but Justice Kagan basically called BS on that. So what happens if Trump wins this case? And based on Monday's oral arguments, it's looking likely that he will. If the Supreme Court sides with Trump, he gains the power to fire commissioners at the FTC, the SEC, the FCC, the National Labor Relations Board, the Consumer Product Safety Commission, the Merit Systems Protection Board. We are talking dozens of agencies. Probably not the Federal Reserve, but almost everything else. Think about what that means for a second. Right now, these agencies have some level of independence. They can make decisions without worrying that the president is going to fire them if he doesn't like the outcome. But if this precedent falls, the president gains direct control over who regulates trade, labor, communications, financial markets, basically everything. Democrats are calling this a power grab. They are saying Trump is trying to turn independent agencies into political tools. And you know what? They are probably right about Trump's intentions, but that doesn't mean they are right about the Constitution. Republicans are calling this restoring constitutional accountability. They are saying the founders never envisioned a system where unelected bureaucrats could wield massive power without answering to the president. And you know what? They are probably right too. Here's the part that nobody is talking about, though. This power doesn't just go to Trump. Every future president, Democrat or Republican, will have it. So when the pendulum swings back, and it will swing back eventually, the next Democrat president is going to have the exact same authority to fire agency heads at will. You think Democrats thought about that before they started screaming about Trump being a dictator? Because I'll tell you what, if Kamala Harris or Gavin Newsom is president in 2029, and they can fire every Republican on these commissions, you know they are going to do it. And Republicans are going to be the ones crying about the lost independence. The Supreme Court is going to decide this case by the end of June 2026. Based on Monday's oral arguments, Trump is probably going to win. And when he does, it's going to reshape the federal government in ways we haven't seen since the New Deal. Here's my question for you. Do you think independent agencies should be insulated from presidential control? Or do you think if someone's exercising executive power, they should answer to the elected president? Because that's really what this case is about. It's not about Trump. It's about the structure of government. And depending on which way the Supreme Court goes, we are either going to see a massive expansion of presidential power, or we are going to keep the status quo that's been in place since 1935. Let me know what you think in the comments on Rumble or YouTube. 2. Alright, story number 2. Senate Republicans just unveiled their alternative to the Democrats' Obamacare subsidy extension, and it's a completely different approach to health care. Senators Mike Crapo from Idaho and Bill Cassidy from Louisiana, the chairs of the Senate Finance Committee and the Senate Health Committee, introduced something called the Healthcare Freedom for Patients Act. Here's the situation. Enhanced Obamacare subsidies are set to expire on December 31st. That's in 3 weeks. If nothing happens, premiums are going to more than double for over 20 million Americans who rely on financial assistance to afford marketplace plans. Democrats want to extend the enhanced subsidies for 3 more years. Just keep the money flowing to insurance companies like it has been. Simple extension, no reforms, status quo. Republicans said, absolutely not. We are doing something different. Here's how the Crapo-Cassidy plan works. Instead of sending billions of taxpayer dollars to insurance companies, They want to put that money directly into health savings accounts, HSAs, for patients. If you're between 18 and 49 years old and you buy a bronze or catastrophic health plan on the Obamacare exchange, the government deposits $1,000 into your health savings account. If you're between 50 and 64, you get $1,500. This applies to anyone earning up to 700% of the federal poverty level. That's about $109,000 for an individual or $225,000 for a family of 4. Now, you can't use that money to pay your premiums, but you can use it for deductibles, co-pays, prescriptions, and other out-of-pocket expenses. And here's the kicker. It's your account. You control it, not some insurance company. Cassidy puts it perfectly. Instead of 100% of this money going to insurance companies, let's give it to the patients. By giving them an account that they control, we give them the power. We make healthcare affordable again. Crapo said giving billions of taxpayer dollars to insurers is not working to reduce health insurance premiums for patients. We need to give Americans more control over their own healthcare decisions. Now, there's more in this bill. It also includes cost-sharing reduction payments starting in 2027, which are projected to lower premiums by 12% and save $30 billion. Republicans tried to get this done before the big beautiful bill negotiations last summer, but Democrats blocked it. The bill also expands access to catastrophic health plans, which have lower premiums but higher deductibles, to everyone, not just people under 30. And here's where it gets really interesting. The bill includes provisions that Democrats are going to hate. First, it requires states to verify citizenship and immigration status before anyone can get Medicaid. Translation: no more Medicaid for illegal aliens. Second, it explicitly prohibits federal dollars from being used for gender transition services under Medicaid. And third, and this is in the HSA language itself, the government funds deposited into health savings accounts cannot be used for abortions or gender transition services. So, Republicans are essentially saying, we will give you health care money, but we are not funding abortions, we are not funding gender transitions, and we are not giving Medicaid to people who aren't legally in this country. Now, Senate Majority Leader John Thune announced that the Senate will vote on both plans this Thursday, December 12th. The Democrat plan to extend the subsidies and the Republican Crapo-Cassidy plan. Neither one is expected to pass. You need 60 votes in the Senate, and neither side has that. Democrats are already dismissing the Republican plan. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer said the Crapo-Cassidy bill would not extend the ACA tax credits for a single day. That's what's driving the price up, and they are doing nothing about it. But Republicans are firing back. Thune said the Democrat plan does zero reforms to this program and called it a show vote. Here's the reality, Patriots. If neither bill passes, and that's looking likely, those enhanced subsidies expire on December 31st. Premiums double in January for millions of Americans, and both parties are going to blame each other. But let's talk about the actual policy for a second, because this is a fundamental difference in the philosophy. Democrats want to keep the current system. Taxpayer money flows to insurance companies, and those companies subsidize your premiums. The insurance companies make money, your premiums stay low, and the government writes the checks. Republicans want to change the system. Taxpayer money goes into your account. You decide how to spend it, and insurance companies have to compete for your business by offering better value. Which approach actually makes more sense? If you give money to insurance companies, they have no incentive to lower costs. They are getting paid either way. But if you give money to patients, and patients can choose where to spend it, suddenly providers and insurers have to compete on price and quality. That's basic economics. When consumers control the money, prices go down and quality goes up. Now, Democrats argue that HSAs favor wealthier people because they can contribute more and get bigger tax benefits. And there's some truth to that. But the Republican plan addresses this by having the government seed the accounts with 1,000 or 1,500. You're not starting from zero. Democrats also argued that this plan would destabilize the insurance markets by pulling healthy people into catastrophic plans and leaving sicker people in more comprehensive plans. They call it a death spiral, where premiums keep rising as the risk pool gets sicker. Republicans counter that cost-sharing reductions and premium support would prevent that from happening. And they point out that the current system already has problems with affordability. 61% of marketplace enrollees say they have difficulty affording out-of-pocket costs. So here's my question for you. Do you want the government giving your tax dollars to insurance companies? Or do you want that money going into your account where you control how it's spent? Because that's really what this debate is about. It's not just about healthcare. It's about who gets the money and who makes the decisions. All right, final story. And Patriots, this one is just, I don't even know where to start with this. Democrat Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett has filed paperwork to run for U.S. Senate in Texas. Yes, you heard that right, Texas. Deep red, Ted Cruz country. Republicans have won every statewide race for decades, Texas. Now, if you've been listening to O'Connor's Right Stand, that's our deep dive show on Tuesdays and Thursdays, you will remember we did a full episode back in October where we exposed every single scandal surrounding Jasmine Crockett. And Patriots, there are a lot of them. Let me give you the quick refresher, because this is important context for why her Senate run is absolutely insane. In August, the New York Post published a bombshell investigation based on 3 sources who either worked for Crockett or worked closely with her. The allegations? She runs a toxic workplace where black female staff members, the very demographic she claims to champion, feel disempowered, abused, and disrespected. Staff said she called employees stupid. She made them cry with comments like, "Do you really want to be here? If not, you can leave." When gay staff members raised concerns about her using the term butch to mock Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, she dismissed them. Oh, and there's more. Staff said she demands to be driven around in rented Escalades like she's some sort of celebrity. She requires staffers to open car doors for her like she's royalty. She works from a luxury office building instead of her actual congressional office. And multiple sources said she's focused almost exclusively on being an influencer rather than actually helping her constituents. Then there's the fact she mocked wheelchair-bound Governor Greg Abbott, calling him Governor Hot Wheels. Real classy, right? Mocking a disabled person. Very compassionate, very progressive. She exploited the Botham Jean family's tragedy for a political gain. You know, the innocent black man who was murdered in his own apartment by a Dallas police officer, until the Jean family issued a cease and desist letter telling her to stop using their son's name. Oh, and let's not forget, she took $1 million from Sam Bankman-Fried and his FTX cryptocurrency scam right before it collapsed and defrauded investors out of billions. And then, as if all of that wasn't enough, she said that law enforcement isn't to prevent crime, quote unquote, which police officers across the country immediately pushed back on because, that's literally the job. So with all that baggage, the staff abuse, the mocking of disabled people, the exploitation of victims' families, the cryptocurrency fraud money, the anti-police rhetoric, Jasmine Crockett thinks she can win a U.S. Senate seat in Texas. Her campaign announcement is using Trump's own low IQ insult against him in her debut ad. She's trying to flip this into some kind of own the Republicans moment, like she's going to clap back her way into the Senate. Here's the reality, Patriots. Texas is not a swing state. It's a red state. Republicans have been winning statewide races there for decades. Democrats love to talk about Texas turning purple every election cycle, but it never happens. And you know why? Because Texans are smart. They can see through BS. Crockett's candidacy is going to be a joke. She's going to raise a ton of money from out-of-state progressives who think they can flip Texas. People in California and New York who have never been to Texas and don't understand Texas values. She's going to get national media coverage because the mainstream press loves a black woman who claps back on social media and sticks it to Republicans. And then she's going to get absolutely crushed in the general election. And honestly, good. Because Texans deserve a senator who actually cares about their state, not someone who treats staff like garbage, mocks disabled people, and takes money from cryptocurrency fraudsters. But here's what Crockett's candidacy tells you about where the Democratic Party is right now. They are desperate. They are throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks. They are willing to elevate people with disqualifying scandals because they think style and social media clout can overcome substance. It can't, and it won't. Texans aren't stupid. They can see through this. They know what Jasmine Crockett is. A Twitter celebrity who treats people terribly and thinks being snarky is the same thing as being qualified. And when she loses, and she will lose, maybe, just maybe, Democrats will learn that you can't insult your way into the office, that you actually have to have a record of accomplishment, that you have to treat people with respect, that character matters. But I doubt it, because Democrats never learn. So here's my question for you. Do you think any Democrat can win statewide in Texas in 2026? Or is this just a fundraising exercise where she raises millions from coastal elites, gets crushed in the general election, and then has to figure out, hey, what do I do next? Since she gave up her House seat to run. So there you have it, Patriots. 3 stories that show you exactly where we are as a country right now. Story 1. The Supreme Court heard arguments Monday in a case that could overturn 90 years of precedent and give Trump the power to fire the heads of dozens of independent federal agencies. The conservative majority signaled they're ready to do this. This is going to reshape the entire federal government, and every future president, Democrat or Republican, will have this same power. Story 2. Senate Republicans unveiled the Crapo-Cassidy healthcare plan as an alternative to extending Obamacare subsidies. Instead of giving billions to insurance companies, they want to put $1,000 to $1,500 directly into your health savings account. Democrats want to keep the status quo. Republicans want you to control the money. The Senate votes Thursday, and neither plan is expected to pass, which means premiums could double in January. Story 3. Jasmine Crockett, who abuses her staff, mocks disabled people, took $1 million from Sam Bankman-Fried, and exploited the Botham-Jean family, thinks she can win a Senate seat in Texas. She's using Trump's low IQ insult in her campaign ad, and she's going to get absolutely destroyed in the general election. What's the thread connecting all 3 stories? Simple. The system is broken, but people are finally fighting back. Trump is fighting to restore presidential accountability over unelected bureaucrats. Republicans are fighting to put healthcare dollars in your hands instead of insurance company pockets. And Texas voters are going to fight back against Crockett's attempt to bring her toxic, corrupt politics to the Senate. The establishment thought they could get away with it forever. Unaccountable agencies, money flowing to corporate donors, celebrities masquerading as politicians. But Americans are waking up. We are seeing through the games. We understand the playbook, and we are not falling for it anymore. The question again is, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to sit back and let unelected bureaucrats run your life? Are you going to accept insurance companies controlling your healthcare dollars? Are you going to let someone like Jasmine Crockett, who treats people like dirt, represent you in the Senate? Or are you going to fight back? Share these stories. Call out these politicians. Vote them out in 2026. Because that's what it's going to take. The establishment is gift wrapping their own defeat by showing us exactly who they are. All we have to do is believe them and act accordingly. I'll see you Friday with 3 more stories the mainstream media won't touch. This is O'Connor's Quick Strike, and I'm John O'Connor. Hold the line, Patriots.